What's up, guys, and welcome to the Tim Sports Talk. And there was some big breaking news coming out of the Justin Fields camp that he has been managing and continues to manage epilepsy as he heads into the 2021 NFL draft. And going into this, I knew very little about epilepsy other than I knew that seizures were involved, and it usually is like overstimulation, like when you watch a movie with a bunch of lights and a bunch of stuff, and all of a sudden like that could spur it on. That's about all I knew about epilepsy. I didn't know how serious it is. I knew it's serious because seizures are serious, but at the same time, I'm like, do they have them often? I don't know. I didn't know a lot about it. All right, so I went ahead and I just went to, apparently there's an epilepsy.com, and just to learn a little bit about it. Epilepsy is a neurological condition that affects the nervous system. Epilepsy is also known as a seizure disorder. It is usually diagnosed after a person has had at least 2 seizures or after 1 seizure with a high risk for more that were not caused by some known medical condition. And a seizure, just in case you're wondering, is a seen in epilepsy are caused by disturbances in the electrical activity of the brain. The seizures in epilepsy may be related to a brain injury, genetics, immune, brain structure, or metabolic cause, but most of the time the cause is unknown. And so I'm like, okay. So yeah, it's kind of what I thought it was as far as like the neurological in your brain. It's overstimulation, I guess, or something along those lines where it affects your nervous system and you basically seize up, your whole body seizes and you can't control it anymore, right? So the big thing that teams have to ask are there long-term effects by these, and there can be. Now, is it necessarily common? No. But usually it's because they have multiple in a row, like close together, or they have extended long seizures that could cause you to have, basically brain damage, or it could cause unfortunate death, or like in extreme cases, it could be extremely dangerous. Now, as this title says, or as he said, I can't remember where it said here, but it doesn't seem to affect his football. And as a potential team, I wouldn't necessarily worry about like, okay, is he going to have a seizure in the middle of the field? I guess like theoretically you could. I mean, other players I think have. If you take a nasty, huge hit, you could lock up and kind of seize on the field. So it's not necessarily impossible. But he hasn't had one on the field at Ohio State, and he's played quite a few games there. I think he had 12 games 2 years ago, and then 8 this year or 9 this year, because I think they were 7-0 before the playoffs. So 9 games this season. So 21 total games and no seizures on the field. So I wouldn't necessarily be extremely worried about him getting a seizure on the field. But the thing is if you're picking number 3 at San Francisco, which I was saying prior to this that I think that Justin Fields should go number 3. I actually have him as my second best quarterback in this draft. Believe it or not, I have Zach Wilson number 1, Justin Fields number 2, Trevor Lawrence number 3. So I would love to take him at number 2 if I was the Jets, but it looks like the Jaguars are going to take Lawrence. So if I'm the Jets, I would go ahead and take Zach Wilson, and then I would say Justin Fields, obvious to go number 3. I don't really believe in Mac Jones. Trey Lance is more of a project. You're getting a great player in Justin Fields. But if you have the number 3 pick, and he has a condition that could potentially cause long-term effects, or something crazy happens off the field and then he has to miss time, you really have to judge the likelihood of this if you are the San Francisco 49ers. And you also, so big questions you'll have to ask him, right? When's the last seizure you had? How often how long did it last? How many do you get? How often do they come? Like, you got to really dig into these kind of questions. I don't know how much of this he has to answer. How much he should answer. I don't know. I mean, it's his health, so it's his own private business. So I would assume that the NFL can't just go into his medical records and find out when the last seizure was or something like crazy like that. But these are the big things you have to ask, right? If I'm San Francisco, I think I have to take Trey Lance at this point. I'm not a big believer in Mac Jones. I know that a lot of people think Mac Jones is going to go number 3. I think that's insane. But I think you have to take Trey Lance. And because of this unknown, and you have the number 3 overall pick, you cannot mess up the number 3 overall pick, right? And Trey Lance, I think, has extremely high upside. Extremely high upside. I think he can be Russell Wilson 2.0, or like a cross between Russell Wilson and Cam Newton. He's got great size. He can run people over. He's got great speed. He's got good arm. I think he could be some sort of cross between those two, which would just be through the roof fantastic, right? And so if I'm looking at that kind of a player, and then I'm looking at Justin Fields, who's a blazer, who also has a heck of an arm, who is just through the roof talented, and I think he's a little bit more polished than Trey Lance. Obviously, he played this season. He played 2 seasons. Trey Lance only played 1, and then he only played 1 game this year where he didn't look particularly good. They have one heck of a decision. They have one heck of a decision. But I think I would lean towards taking Trey Lance. And another big factor in that is that you still have Jimmy Garoppolo on your roster. So even if he's not ready to start week 1 this year, you have a capable quarterback in Jimmy G, and then you can move Trey Lance along as needed. You don't have to rush him in. You can have him sit a full year if you wanted to, depending on the health of your team, how your team's looking, how it's going. Or you could have a potential situation like Colin Kaepernick coming in for Alex Smith, right? Jimmy G, more of the game manager type like Alex Smith was, and Justin Fields, the more game-breaking, unbelievable talent that Colin Kaepernick was in that 2012 season, I think. So there's precedent for this, not only in the league, but literally for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the next question, and I saw, just to clarify, I would take Trey Lance now in San Francisco spot. I believe that's what I would do. Now, what does that mean for Justin Fields? How far does he fall? And does Mac Jones get drafted ahead of him? And this would be huge for our Washington football team. Huge. Now, do I believe he falls to 19? Doubtful. Highly doubtful. 2% chance, 1% chance, kind of doubtful that he falls all the way to 19. I think he's too talented, and I know this is a scary diagnosis, but teams are going to have to do their due diligence and look into it, and I doubt that he falls to 19. But does he fall to 13? Do the Lions or the Broncos, teams that were kind of thinking about maybe taking a quarterback, do these teams now pass on this and kind of just, you know what? We have young quarterbacks right now, Jared Goff in the Lions, and you have Drew Lock in the Broncos. We have young quarterbacks. There's talented players available. Do we move on? I don't think any of the other NFC East teams are interested in taking a quarterback. And then you have the Chargers sitting there at 13. This could be a prime spot for the Washington football team to trade up to get Justin Fields and not have to feel like they have to trade all the way up to 7. Now, what's the likelihood of him falling to 13? At this point, I would say it's somewhere around 35% that he falls. I think probably more like 70, 65, 70%. He does not fall outside the top 10. I think he's too talented. So you may still have to trade up to pick 7 or pick 9 or pick 8 for that matter. Because I think another team would be interested in trading up. I looked at a mock draft just recently, and the Patriots are now mocked to maybe trade up to number 7 to take Justin Fields. I don't think that that's going to happen because I don't think the Patriots are interested in trading up for a quarterback. I think they will like maybe a Davis Mills or a Kellen Mond in the second round potentially. But this is the plot thickens, as they say, right? Anything could happen now in this draft. The only 2 things for certain is Lawrence is 1, Wilson is 2. That's all you know for certain. That's all. That's it. Pick 3 is going to start a domino effect that we've very few times seen in the NFL draft. This draft, there's so many different ways to go with this draft. So many. Does Atlanta take a quarterback? Does the Lions take a quarterback? Do the Broncos? Do the Vikings? Who knows? Do the Panthers still take a quarterback anyway? Because even though they got Sam, I have my opinions on what I think should happen, but anything could. So anyway, you guys let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. I hope for Justin Fields' sake that it does not get very often seizures, that it's very, very manageable. It's not something that's extremely affecting him on a day-to-day basis. I hope that it does not affect his draft stock. I hope that San Francisco takes him because I think they're getting a fantastic quarterback, and I think that that would be a great move for them. And but I can't pretend to know what they're thinking with the epilepsy. I can't pretend to know that. Like, me personally, I would take Trey Lance still. But you know what? If Justin Fields goes number 3, I think he's deserving of it, and I think it would be awesome. So you guys let me know what you think about it in the comments. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Also in the comments below, or in the description below, there's a Discord link. Come into our Discord and come talk some football. And last but not least, there are donation links in the description below. If you feel so kind, you could donate to the channel. Justin Fields, praying for you. Hopefully everything works out. And until next time, see ya!